Shalom, Shabbatov. Welcome to the Philadelphia Assemblies. Today is the 14th day of the 11th month of the year 5780. It's also the 10th day of February 2021. And we're going to begin our expository reading of the book of Isaiah today. I'm going to start doing more than just one lesson a week because I'm really wanting to get this expository teaching down and get it up and available for you all to view at your own discretion, at your time, at your convenience. That's the right way to put it, I guess. So let's go ahead and open in prayer. Almighty Father Yahuwah, we praise you in all things, Father. We thank you for this day, and we thank you for your hedge of protection that's been around us, Father. We ask that it would continue. You would protect us from this plague that's upon the whole earth. We ask that you would protect all those that are called and being called, and if all those that are sick, we ask healing upon them, and anyone that might have lost loved ones, we ask that you give them the peace that passes understanding that only comes from the indwelling of the Ruach HaKodesh. So praise you, Father, and we ask that as we go to this word that you give us the words to say, they be your words and not ours, and help the Ruach HaKodesh to give us that extra unction of understanding. We ask it all in your precious Son, Yahushua's name. Amen. So, short synopsis again, we're going to the book of Isaiah, which is the most quoted of our Messiah and also of Shaul or Paul in the whole Brit Hadashah, okay, our New Testament. So, we're going to jump into it, and I'm going to remind you that I have a what's known as a sword Bible, okay, and that just tells me that the words of the Most High or Yahuwah are in red. And again, if you believe it's Yahweh, I don't think there's any condemnation in using any of those names that would line up with his tetragrammaton. You know, even some say Jehovah instead of, Yahuwah. And I understand that derivation as well. So as long as you're calling on that tetragrammaton, you have understanding of that, I think there's not a problem. I think even those that don't have the understanding that are coming to that, the Father has grace for those people. So let's not stand in judgment of people how they pronounce the name. But let's go ahead and kick right off. In chapter 1 says, the vision of Isaiah, the son of Amoz, which he saw concerning the Yehudim and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Yehudah. Okay, so we know who they're talking about there. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for Yahuwah hath spoken. Now, Yahuwah, no one ever heard Yahuwah speak. They heard the Ruach HaKodesh speak, which is it's Yahuwah's spirit. It's his essence. It's everything that man can see of Yahuwah in the flesh. Okay, so thus saith the Ruach HaKodesh. Okay, so hear, O heavens, or the Shamayim. Oh, hear, O Shamayim, and give ear, O earth, for Yahuwah has spoken. This is in red down through verse 3, which we're in verse 2 now. I have nourished and brought up Ben, or sons, and they have rebelled against me. Yahuwah saying, he's brung up sons of Israel, and they've rebelled against him. The ox knows its owner, and the donkey or the ass its master's manger, okay, or where he comes from. But Israel does not know, my people doth not consider. Israel does not know, comma, my people do not consider. They don't listen and consider to Yahuwah's commandments. Verse 4, sinful nation, a people laden with lawlessness, a seed of evildoers, Ben are sons that are corrupters. They have forsaken Yahuwah. They have provoked the Holy One, or the set apart one, or the Kodesh one of Israel into anger. They are backslidden. Okay? So the Holy One of Israel here is not the Messiah, it's Yahuwah, okay? And even though, now Messiah has come and we are now betrothed, not married, okay, or engaged to him, he's still not the Holy One of Israel. The Most High is Yahuwah, and he is the Son of the Most High. We need to keep that straight. They're have the same character, but they're not the same entity, okay? So understand it, and he's saying that Israel is backslidden. Verse 5, why should you be stricken anymore? Or why should you be corrected anymore? You will revolt more and more. The whole head is sick, and the whole heart is weak. Verse 6, for the sole of your foot, even unto the head, there is no understanding in it, soundness or understanding, but wounds and bruises and purity sores and putrefying sores, or infected sores, okay? They have not been stitched, neither bound up, neither mollified with ointment. Your country is desolate, your cities are burned with fire, your land strangers gobble it in your presence, and it is desolate, as overthrown by strangers or foreigners. And the daughter of Zion is left as a crude shelter in a vineyard, as a lodge in the garden of cucumbers, as a besieged city. Except Yahuwah of the multitudes, or Sabaoth, okay, in Hebrew. So it says, except Yahuwah of the multitudes had left unto us a very small remnant. That means out of the whole tribe of Israel, there was still a remnant that was keeping his commandments and that were in covenant. We should have been as Sodom, and we should have been like unto Gomorrah. Hear the word of Yahuwah, and the word of Yahuwah is the Ruach HaKodesh. Ye rulers of Sodom, and this is verse 10, this is Isaiah the prophet saying this, hear the word of Yahuwah, you rulers of Sodom. Give ear unto the Torah of our Elohim, you people of Gomorrah. Verse 11, thus saith Yahuwah, it's in red, okay, all the way through verse 20, okay. It says, to what purpose is the multitude of your sacrifices unto me? That says Yahuwah through the Ruach HaKodesh, saith Yahuwah. I am full of burnt offerings, of rams, and the fat of fed beasts, and I delight not in the blood of bullocks, or of lambs, or of the goats. When you come to appear before me, you have required this at your hand, to trample my courts, with all these sacrifices, because you're not keeping his commandments, okay? Bring no more worthless offerings or sacrifices. Incense is an abomination, okay, or is detestable unto me. The new moons and the Sabbaths, the calling of assemblies, I cannot away with. He cannot do away with, and he will not. It is iniquity, not his Sabbaths or his new moons, but the way that they were keeping them. And that just means they weren't keeping them with the whole heart. That's really not discerning, saying that they're keeping them at wrong times or anything like that. It's saying that they're not doing it to Yahuwah. They're just doing it, and they're offering sacrifices, and that's what's treading down or trampling down his courts. Okay? So bring no more worthless oblations or offerings. Okay? The calling unto me. The new moons, so obviously they were assembling on the new moons, and the Sabbaths, that's talking about the 7th-day Sabbath, but as well as those high days, those feast days. The calling of assemblies, I cannot away with. It is lawlessness. Okay? Even the solemn meetings, they're lawless. Your new moons and your appointed feasts, my life, or I hate them. They are a trouble unto me. I am weary to bear them. In other words, they're coming with the wrong attitude. So it meant nothing. And a matter of fact, the opposite to Yahuwah. And when you spread forth your hands, I will hide my eyes from you. Yes, when you make many prayers, I will not hear you. Your hands are full of blood, murder. It's talking about of these sacrifices. Wash, make you clean. Put away the evil of your doings from before my eyes. Cease to do evil. That's what he wanted. He wanted them to keep his covenant, to obey his Torah, and cease to do evil, not bring worthless sacrifices that were treading down his courts. Verse 17, learn to do well, seek judgment, encourage the oppressed, judge the fatherless, plead for the widow. So important. That's what his Torah teaches us, all those things. Come now, and let us reason together, saith Yahuwah. Though your sins be as scarlet, they shall be as white as snow. Though they be red like crimson, they shall be as wool. If you repent, that's what he's talking about here. If you be willingly and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land. If you'll keep my covenant, I'll give you the best of everything. But if you refuse and rebel, you shall be destroyed with the sword. For the mouth of Yahuwah has spoken it. And the mouth of Yahuwah, again, is the Ruach HaKodesh. He's the Malach of Yahuwah, the angel or messenger of Yahuwah. 21, we're back to Isaiah the prophet speaking again. How has the faithful city become a harlot? He's saying that it is. The faithful city of Jerusalem at this time was a harlot. It was full of judgment, righteousness, lodged in it, living in it. That's what lodged in it means. Living in righteousness. But now murderers. Okay? And literal murderers of men, but also of these sacrifices. Your silver has become dross, your wine mixed with water, diluted. Your princes are rebellious and champions of thieves. Everyone loves bribes and follows after rewards. They judge not the fatherless, neither does the cause of the widow come into them. So when it doesn't mean to judge them negatively. They don't recognize. That's what's talking about here, the fatherless. Okay? That's what they don't judge. It means they don't recognize the fatherless. Neither do does the cause of the widow come unto them. Therefore saith Yahuwah, Yahuwah of the multitudes, again of Sabaoth in Hebrew, the mighty one of Israel. I will be relieved of mine adversaries, and avenge me of my enemies. Talking about Israel is becoming his enemy. That's what this is talking about here. And I will turn my hand upon you, and smelt or burn you up away your dross. In other words, going to burn off, get rid of the rebellion, the rebellers. That's the dross, okay? And take away all your tin. That's the worthless ones that are among Israel. And I will restore your judges as at the first, and your counselors as at the beginning. Afterward you shall be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city. When's this going to happen? It's not certainly going to happen before the millennial reign of our Mashiach till he returns. It's not going to happen. Okay? Never has, never will, until the Messiah returns and sets up his sanctuary. But even then, there'll still be sin in the land. We'll read that later on in Zechariah. Okay? So there'll still be sin in the land. But this is prophesying of righteousness when he's going to get rid of all those. And actually, even further, because he's talking about burning off the dross and doing everything, this is actually talking about the new heaven and new earth. Certainly not before the millennial, but more than likely not before the new heaven, new earth. Verse 27, Zion shall be redeemed with judgment, and her converts with righteousness. And the destruction of transgressors and of the sinners shall be together, and they that forsake Yahuwah shall perish. That's what it means. Be consumed. It means to perish, not exist, in the lake of fire. That's what this is talking about. For they shall be ashamed of the pagan shrines, which you have desired, and you shall be disgraced for the gardens that you have chosen. For you shall be as a shrine, again, that's what this is talking about, a pagan shrine, whose leaf fades, using an oak as an example, whose leaf fades, and as a garden that has no water. Talking about Israel as a nation. And the strong shall be as straw, and his work as a spark, and they shall both burn together, and none shall quench them. This is obviously talking about the great white throne judgment when Yahuwah, the mighty one of Israel, the Kodesh one of Israel, actually comes before men. That's what this is all talking about. You could understand that. Again, it's not a question even of being in the Ruach, just taking this thing spiritually as it applies literally. Okay? Chapter 2. The word that Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning the Yehudim and Jerusalem. And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of Yahuwah, of the house of Yahuwah, shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. This is talking about in the new heaven and new earth. And many people shall go and say, Come you, and let us go up to the mountain of Yahuwah, to the house of, is that Elohim? Yeah, to the house of the Elohim of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the Torah and the word of Yahuwah from Jerusalem. And that obviously our Messiah is going to do that in the millennial reign, but this is also talking about in the new heaven, new earth. And he shall judge among the nations, Yahuwah, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into prune hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation. That's, again, after the millennial reign. That there'll be no more pain or suffering or anything, Revelation chapter 21. Neither shall they learn war anymore. O house of Jacob, this is all Isaiah prophesying here. O house of Jacob, come you, and let us walk in the light of Yahuwah. Okay, and the light of Yahuwah again is the Ruach HaKodesh and the Torah and everything else. Okay, that considers that together. Verse 6. Therefore you have forsaken your people, the house of Jacob, because they be replenished from the east, and are soothsayers, okay, or fortune tellers, like the Philistines, and they please themselves in the sons or in the children of strangers. This word's not been, okay. Their land also is full of silver and gold, neither is there any end of their treasure. Their land is also full of horses, neither is there any end of their chariots. Their land also is full of idols. They worship the work of their own hands, that which their own fingers have made. And the common man is humbled, and the great man humbles himself. Therefore, forgive them not. Enter into the caves of Yahuwah, and for the glory of his majesty. The proud looks of a man shall be humbled, and the haughtiness of men shall be humbled, and Yahuwah alone shall be exalted in that day. That's talking about the new heaven and new earth. For the day of Yahuwah of the multitude shall be upon everyone that is proud and lofty. That's talking about the great white throne judgment and the lake of fire that is proud and lofty. And upon everyone that is lifted up. That's when they'll be destroyed. And he shall be brought low. And upon all the cedars of Lebanon that are high and lifted up, and upon all the oaks of Bashan, and upon all the high mountains, and upon all the hills that are lifted up, and upon every high tower, and upon every fortified wall around every city. I added that. And upon all the ships of Tarshish, and upon all the pleasant pictures, and the proud and the arrogance of man shall be humbled, and haughtiness of men shall be made low, and Yahuwah alone shall be exalted in that day. And that day is not going to happen until the new heaven, new earth. In that day a man shall throw away his idols of silver and his idols of gold, which they made each one for himself, to worship to the moles and to the bats, to go into the clefts of the rocks and unto the tops of the ragged rocks, for fear of Yahuwah and for the glory of his majesty, when he arises to shake terribly the earth. Cease you from man, whose breath is in his nostrils, for wherein is he to be accounted for? So what is he going to be accounted for? Because he's flesh and he's going to be destroyed at some point. Chapter 3. For behold, Yahuwah of the multitudes, or Sabaoth, does take away from Jerusalem and from Yehudah the supply and the support, and the whole support of bread, and the whole support of water. The mighty man and the man of war, the judge and the prophet, and the diviner and the elder. Okay, he's going to take all that away. The captain of 50 and the honorable man and the counselor and the cunning magician and the eloquent orator. He's going to take away all those. Verse 4 and 5 are in red, which is thus saith Yahuwah. And I will give Ben their sons to be their princes, and babies shall rule over them. And the people shall be oppressed, every one by another, and every one by his neighbor. The child shall behave himself proudly or arrogantly against the elder, and the inferior against the honorable. Verse 6, again, thus saith Isaiah the prophet. When a man shall take hold of his brother of the house of his father, saying, You have clothing, be you our ruler, and let this ruin be under your hand. In that day shall he protest, saying, I will not be a helper, for in my house is neither bread nor clothing. Make me not a ruler of the people. For Jerusalem is ruled, and Yehudah is fallen, because their tongue and their doings are against Yahuwah, to provoke the eyes of his glory. Which the eyes of his glory, again, is the Ruach HaKodesh, provoking his power. The show of their countenance does witness against them, and they declare their sin as Sodom. They hide it not. Woe unto their soul, woe unto their life, for they have rewarded evil unto themselves. Say you to the righteous, that it shall be well with him. This is in red, verse 10 again. Thus saith Yahuwah. This was Isaiah elaborating. Now he's giving thus saith Yahuwah. Say to the righteous, that it shall be well with them, for they shall eat the fruit of their doings. So he's talking about the remnant of Israel that are in covenant. Woe unto the wicked, it shall be ill with him. For the reward of his hand shall be given unto him. That's talking about at the lake of fire, the white throne judgment. He'll be devoured, he'll be destroyed. That's part of purging away the tin and the worthless part of Israel. Verse 12, As for my people, Ben or sons are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead the cause and cause you to err. Those that lead cause you to err. and destroy the way of your paths, which is the Torah. Verse 13, Yahuwah stands up to plead and stands to judge the people. 13 and 14, thus, again, Isaiah expounding upon, thus saith Yahuwah. He says, Yahuwah stands up to plead and stands to judge the people. Yahuwah will enter into judgment with the elders of his people and the princes thereof. This is in red now. This is thus saith Yahuwah through quite a bit. I'll tell you when it's over. Of his people and the princes thereof. For you have eaten up or ruined the vineyard, which is Israel he's talking about. The spoil of the poor is in your houses. What do you mean that you beat my people to pieces and grind the faces of the poor, saith Yahuwah of the multitudes, or of Sabaoth? Moreover, Yahuwah says, or also Yahuwah says, because the daughters of Zion are haughty, or proud, and walk with stretched forth necks and seductive eyes, walking and skipping as they go, and making a tinkling with their feet. Therefore Yahuwah will smite with a scab the crown of the head of the daughters of Zion, and Yahuwah will discover their secret parts. In that day Yahuwah will take away the beauty of their anklets and the headband of their the twinkling of the bravery of their headbands, and about their feet or anklets. I got it all mixed up there. About their feet and their tiaras or their crowns, like, okay, that he's talking about there, or the claws or their tiaras are like crowns, and they're round. I said it actually wrong. It was their headbands first, their causes or their headbands, and their rounds are their tiaras, like the moon, okay, like the full moon, round. Okay, verse 19. The earrings and the bracelets and the veils, the bonnets and the ornaments of the legs, and the sashes and the perfume and the earrings, the rings and the nose jewels, all those will be taken away. The changeable suits of apparel, in other words, the multiple clothing, and the mantles, and the money purses. The cloaks and the money purses. Verse 23. The hand mirrors, and the fine linen, and the turbans, and the veils. And it shall come to pass that instead of sweet smell there shall be stink, and instead of the girdle or belt, okay, instead of the girdle a rope, and instead of a well set of hair baldness, and instead of a fine clothes a girdling of sackcloth, and burning instead of beauty. You men, your men shall fall by the sword, and your mighty in the war. And her gates shall lament, or cry, and mourn, and she being deserted, and she being deserted shall sit upon the ground. Talking about Israel. Chapter 4. And in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread, and wear our own apparel. Only let us be by your name, to take away our reproach. This is chapter 4, and this is Isaiah again expounding here. It was thus saith Yahuwah all the way through the end of chapter 3. So this is all Isaiah in chapter 4. And in that day 7 women shall take hold of one man, saying, we will eat our own bread and wear our own apparel. Only let us be called by your name. Take away our reproach. They wanted them to marry them so that it would take away their shame. Okay? And they would provide their own food and their own clothing. Verse 2. In that day shall the branch of Yahuwah, which I think he's talking about our Mashiach here, be beautiful and glorious, and the fruit of the earth shall be excellent and comely or attractive for them that are escaped of Israel. And it shall come to pass that he that is left in Zion and he that remains in Jerusalem shall be called Kodesh, or set apart, even every one that is written among the living in Jerusalem. When Yahuwah shall have washed away the filth of the daughters of Zion. That's talking about in the lake of fire. That's what he's talking about washing them away with here. And shall have purged the blood of Jerusalem from the midst thereof by the spirit of judgment, the Ruach of judgment, which we know who that is, and by the Ruach of burning. Remember, Elohim is an all-consuming fire. And Yahuwah will create over every dwelling place of Mount Zion, and upon her assemblies a cloud and smoke by day, and the shining of a flame by night. We know that's the Ruach he's talking about. It's the same one that led him through the wilderness. For upon all the glory shall be a canopy, a covering. And there shall be a tabernacle for a shadow in the daytime from the heat, and for a place of refuge, and for a protection from storm and from rain. That's talking about in the new heaven and new earth. Chapter 5. Now, this is all thus saith Yahuwah through verse 10 now. Now will I sing to my well-beloved when he comes back. Okay? When Yahuwah comes down on earth, my well-beloved touching his vineyard concerning Israel. My well-beloved hath a vineyard in a very fertile hill, and he dug it up, and gathered out the stones thereof, again, and planted it with the choicest vine, and built a tower in the midst of it, and also cut out a winepress therein, and he expected that it should bring forth grapes, and it brought forth wild grapes. And that's talking about disobedient people. And now, O inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Yehuda, judge, I beg you, between me and my vineyard. What could have been done more to my vineyard that I have not done? Because he's the husbandman in it. In other words, what else could I have done to make this vineyard better? Why, when I looked that it should bring forth grapes, brought it forth rebellion or wild grapes? And now, listen, I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the hedge thereof, the hedge of protection, and it shall be eaten up, and break down the wall thereof, and it shall be trodden down. And I will lay it waste. It shall not be pruned nor dug, but there shall come up briars and thorns in Israel. I will also command the clouds that they bring forth no rain upon them. For the vineyards of Yahuwah of the multitudes is the house of Israel. Okay, plainly spoken there. And the men of Yehuda, his pleasant plant. And he looked for judgment, but behold, oppression, for righteousness. Behold, a cry. Listen for the cry. Isaiah speaking again in verse 8. Woe unto them that join house to house, that lay field to field. In other words, they're not giving back the land on the Jubilee, or ever how it's pronounced in Hebrew, till there be no place, that they may be placed alone in the midst of the earth. In other words, they gobbled it all up. In my ears, saith Yahuwah of the multitudes, of a truth many houses shall be desolate, even great and fair, without inhabitants. Yes, 10 acres of vineyard shall yield 1 bath of wine. In other words, all these people is only going to bring a small amount of harvest. And the seed of a homer shall yield an ephah. Woe unto them that rise. Now this is, thus saith Isaiah 11, as far as I can see now. Woe unto them that rise up early in the morning, that they may pursue strong drink, that continue until night, till wine inflames them. And the harp, and the viol, the tabret, and the pipe, and wine are their feasts. But they regard not the work of Yahuwah. They don't pay attention, neither consider the operation of his hands, which is the Ruach. Therefore my people are gone into captivity, because they have no knowledge, and their honorable men are famished, or starving, and their multitude dried up with thirst. Therefore Sheol hath enlarged herself, the grave, and opened her mouth without measure, and their glory, and their multitude, and their pomp, and he that rejoices shall descend into it, the grave, Sheol. And the mean man shall be brought down, and the mighty man shall be humbled, and the eyes of the lofty shall be humbled. But Yahuwah of the multitudes of Sabaoth shall be exalted in judgment, and El, and the mighty one that is set apart, or Kodesh, shall be set apart in righteousness. Then shall the lambs feed after their manner, and the waste places of the fat ones shall strangers eat. Woe unto them that drag iniquity with cords of falsehood, and sin as it were with a cart of rope. Okay? So in lawlessness. So woe unto them that drag lawlessness with cords of falsehood, and sin as it were with a cart rope. In other words, right along with them. That say, let him make speed and hurry his work, that we may see it, and let the counselor of the Kodesh one of Israel draw near and come, that we may know it. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness, that put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Again, this is thus saith Isaiah. He's expounding upon what Yahuwah has given him to say. He's putting in his 2 cents. Woe unto them that are wise in their own eyes, and prudent in their own sight. Woe unto them that are mighty to drink wine, and men of strength to mingle strong drink, which acquit the wicked for bribes, and take away their righteousness. Wow. Well, you certainly see that going on now. Of the righteous from him. Therefore, as the fire devours the stubble, and the flame consumes the chaff, so their root shall be as rotten, that shall be rotten, and their bosom shall go up as dust, because they have cast away the Torah of Yahuwah of the multitudes, and despised the word of the Kodesh one of Israel. Therefore is the anger of Yahuwah kindled against his people, and he has stretched forth his hand, which is he's going to the Ruach, against them, and had smitten them. And the hills did tremble, and their carcasses were torn in the midst of the streets. For all his anger is not turned away, but his hand is stretched out still. And again, that's talking about the Ruach, putting out his revenge on Israel. And he will lift up a banner to the nations from far, and will call unto them from the end of the earth, and behold, they shall come with speed, or come quickly. None shall be weary nor stumble among them. None shall slumber nor sleep. Neither shall the girdle of their loins be loosened, nor the thong of their shoes be broken. Woe, arrows are sharp, and all their bows bent. Their horses' hooves shall be counted like flint, and their wheels like a whirlwind. In other words, Ruach sending these other armies of these other nations. Their roaring shall be like a lion. They shall roar like young lions. Yes, they shall roar and lay hold of the prey, and shall carry it away safe, and none shall deliver it. And in that day they shall roar against them like the roaring of the sea. And if one look into the land, behold, darkness and sorrow, and the light is darkened in the Shamayim, or the heavens thereof. And that's prophesying of the time again when Israel was going to be forsaken by Yehuda especially here. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw also Yahuwah sitting upon a throne, in a vision, obviously, not actually seeing him, and high and lifted up, and his robe filled the temple. Above it stood the seraphims. Each one had 6 wings. With two he covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he did fly. And one cried unto another, and said, Kodesh, Kodesh, Kodesh is Yahuwah of the multitudes. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the post of the door moved at the voice of him that cried. This again, Isaiah describing his vision. And the houses were filled with smoke. Then said I, Woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, the King, Yahuwah of the multitudes, or of Sabaoth. He saw it in a vision. Then flew one of the seraphims unto me, having a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with the tongs from off the altar. Again, this is in his vision. And he laid it upon my mouth and said, Lo, this has touched your lips, and your iniquity is taken away, and your sin is forgiven. Also I heard the voice of Yahuwah, which would be the Ruach, saying, Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then said I, Here I am, here. Then said I, Here am I, send me. And that obviously was Isaiah responding in his vision. And he said, and he's telling you here, Yahuwah said through the Ruach, Go and tell this people, Hear you indeed, but understand not. See you indeed, but perceive not. Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes. I'm talking about the blinding of Israel. Because they kept on sinning, and he blinded them to the truth. And that's the end then. That's that reprobate mind that we read about in Brit Hadashah. Least they see with their eyes, hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and convert and be healed. We know our Messiah spoke that in Matthew 13:14, Mark 4:12, and John 12:40. It's also talked about in Acts 28:26. Then said I, Yahuwah, how long? This is Isaiah asking Yahuwah, how long? And he answered, Until the cities be wasted without inhabitants, and the houses without man, and the land be utterly desolate, talking about the land of Israel. And Yahuwah have removed men far away, and they be a great forsaking in the midst of the land. But yet in it shall be a tenth, and it shall return. A tenth, again, is a tithe of the people. But in it shall be a tenth, a tithe, or a remnant, and it shall return, and shall be eaten as a elm tree, and as an oak, whose substance is in them. When they cast their leaves, so the set-apart seed, or the Kodesh seed, shall be the substance thereof. And the seed he's speaking about here is our Messiah. Shall be the substance thereof. And that's what's going to bring forth spiritual Israel, the priesthood after Melchizedek, which I'm going to teach on this weekend a little more. Chapter 7. And it came to pass in the days of Ahaz, the son of Jotham, the son of Uzziah, king of Yehudah, that Rezin, the king of Syria, and Pekah, the son of Remaliah, king of Israel, went up towards Jerusalem to war against it, but it could not prevail against it. And it was told the house of David, saying, Syria is allied with Ephraim, and his heart was moved, and the heart of his people, as the trees of the wood are moved with the wind. Then said Yahuwah unto Isaiah, this is another response to him in this vision, go forth now to meet Ahaz, you and Sherarashobab, your son, at the end of the conduit of the upper pool. Conduit mean a connecting part from one pool to the other, in the highway of the fuller's field. And say unto him, take care and be quiet. Fear not, neither be faint-hearted, for the two tails of these smoking firebands, for the fierce anger of Rezin was Syria, and of the son of Remaliah. So this is talking about a war that's coming upon Israel. Because Syria, Ephraim, and the son of Remaliah have planned evil against you, saying, let us go up against Yehuda and terrorize it, and let us force an entrance therein for us, and set a king in the midst of it, even the son of Tabael. Thus saith Yahuwah, this is all read, thus saith Yahuwah Elohim. Nope, I'm sorry, I'm misspeaking. Thus saith Adonai Yahuwah, it shall not stand, neither shall it come to pass. For the head of Syria is Damascus, and the head of Damascus is Rezin. And within 65 years shall Ephraim be broken, that it be not a people, scattered. And the head of Ephraim is Samaria, and the head of Samaria is Remaliah's son. If you will not believe, surely you shall not stand at all. Moreover, Yahuwah spake again unto Ahaz, saying, ask you, this is verse 11, again it's in red, ask a sign of Yahuwah your Elohim. Ask it either in Sheol, in Sheol, or the grave, or in the height of the Shamayim. Okay? They didn't do a very good job of translating this in your King James. Ask Yahuwah for a sign. Ask Yahuwah your Elohim for a sign. Ask it either in the Sheol or in the grave. Your Elohim. Ask it either in the grave or in the Shamayim. Okay, or the height of the Shamayim, the heavens. But Ahaz said, I will not ask, neither will I test Yahuwah. And he said, hear you now, O house of Dawood. Is it a small thing for you to weary men? But will you weary my mighty one? Also, therefore Yahuwah himself shall give you a sign. You know, this is obvious. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel, or Elohim with us. Okay? Butter and honey shall he eat, that he may know to refuse the evil and choose the good. Butter and honey, he's talking about the Torah. Okay? The word of Elohim, that's what he's going to eat. That he may know to refuse evil and choose good. For before the child shall know to refuse evil, before he reaches the age of accountability, and choose the good, the land that you hate shall be forsaken of both her kings. Yahuwah shall bring upon you and upon your people and upon your father's house days that have not come from the day that Ephraim departed from Yehuda, even the king of Assyria. And it shall come to pass in that day that Yahuwah shall call for the fly that is in the remotest part of the rivers of Egypt, and for the bee that is in the land of Assyria, and they shall come and shall rest all of them in the desolate valleys, and in the holes of the rocks, and upon all thorns, and upon all bushes. In the same day shall Yahuwah shave with a razor that is hired, in other words, someone outside of Israel, namely by them beyond the river, by the king of Assyria, that's who's going to shave them, the head and the hair of the feet, and it shall be removed, and it shall also remove the beard. And it shall come to pass in that day that a man shall keep alive a young cow and 2 sheep. And it shall come to pass for abundance of milk that they shall give, he shall eat butter, for butter and honey shall everyone eat that is left in the land. And it shall come to pass in that day that every place shall be where there were 1,000 vines at 1,000 silverlings. It shall even be for briars and thorns replaced. Okay, the briars and thorns will be replaced with good. Okay, with arrows and with bows shall men come there, because all the land shall become briars and thorns. I actually said that backwards a while ago, I'm sorry. So all the good shall be replaced by briars and thorns when Israel's rejected. And on all the hills that shall be digged with the mattock, there shall not come there the fear of briars and thorns, but it shall be for the sending forth of oxen and for the treading of sheep. Okay, for smaller sheep. I said that incorrectly. I'm going to do one more chapter and we're going to call it an end for this. We'll start in 9 next time. Moreover, also Yahuwah said unto me, take you a great scroll and write in it with a man's pen concerning Mahashai Haslabaz. And I took unto me faithful witnesses to record Uriah the priest and Zechariah the son of Yeberchiah. I'm not very good with some of these names. Forgive me, especially when they're broken between 2 lines. And I entered into the prophetess, and she conceived and bare a son. Then said Yahuwah to me, call his name Mahashai Hashbaz. For before the child, or before the Ben, knows how to cry, my father and my mother, the riches of Damascus and the spoil of Samaria shall be taken away by the king of Assyria. And Yahuwah spake also unto me again, saying, for as much as this people refuses, this is all in red here, refuse the waters of Shiloah that go softly and rejoice in reason, and Remaliah's Ben, or son. Now therefore, behold, Yahuwah brings up upon them the waters of the Euphrates, strong and many, even the king of Assyria, and all his glory, and he shall rise up over all its channels, and go over all its banks. And he shall pass through Yehudah, he shall overflow and go over. He shall reach even to the neck, and the stretching out of its wings shall fall the width of your land, O Emmanuel. So it's talking about how much of Israel's land is going to be cut off from them. Verse 9, associate yourself, O you people, and you shall be broken in pieces, and give ear or listen, all you of far countries, and gird or protect yourself, and you shall be broken in pieces. Grind yourself, and you shall be broken in pieces. Take counsel together, and it shall come to nothing. Speak the word, and it shall not stand, for the mighty one is with us. For Yahuwah spake thus to me with a strong hand, or with a mighty power. Strong hand be talking about the Ruach. And instruct me that I should not walk in the way of this people, saying, you don't say, a conspiracy to all them whom this people shall say, a conspiracy. Neither fear you their fear, nor be afraid. Kodesh is Yahuwah of the multitudes himself, and let him be your fear, and let him be your dread, and he shall be for a refuge, but for a stone of stumbling, and for a rock of confusion to both the houses of Israel, for a trap. I'm sorry, let's see. Yeah, for a trap and for a lure to the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And many among them shall stumble and fall and be broken and be lured and be taken. Bind up the testimony, seal the Torah among my disciples. And I will call upon Yahuwah that hides his face from the house of Jacob, and I will look for him. Behold, I and the Ben whom Yahuwah has given me are for signs and for wonders in Israel from Yahuwah of the multitudes of Sabaoth, which dwells in Mount Zion. And when they shall say unto you, seek unto them that have mediums or familiar spirits, and unto unto spiritualists that whisper and that mutter, should not a people seek unto Elohim, unto their Elohim, for the living and living to the dead? To the law and to the testimony. If they speak not according to this word, it is because there is no light in them. Now he's talking about the whole entire Tanakh or Old Testament. If they don't speak according to the word of Yahuwah, there is no light in them. And they shall pass through it hard and hungry, and it shall come to pass that when they shall be hungry, they shall fret themselves and curse their king and their Elohim and look upward. And they shall look into the earth and behold trouble and darkness diminish of anguish, and they shall be driven to darkness. We're going to go ahead and stop right there. We'll start here in verse 9. Chapter 9, the next lesson. And may Yahuwah bless until we meet again.